At that time, Nimrod was away, leading battles in southern Mesopotamia toward Anatolia and the city of Urfa. When he returned, his leaders told him about a young man named Ibrahim who refused to worship idols and had destroyed their gods. Nimrod ordered that Ibrahim be brought before him. At first, he tried to convince Ibrahim to change his beliefs, but when he failed, he became very angry. The Quran describes their meeting and debate. "Have you not seen the one who argued with Ibrahim about his Lord because Allah had given him power? When Ibrahim said, 'My Lord is the one who gives life and causes death,' the man said, 'I give life and cause death.' Then Ibrahim said, 'Indeed, Allah brings the sun from the east, so bring it from the west.' The disbeliever was left speechless, and Allah does not guide the people who do wrong. Surah Al-Baqarah 2258. When Ibrahim said that Allah gives life and death, Nimrod became furious. He gathered his advisors to decide what punishment should be given to him. One of them, named Hanun, suggested, "Let's burn him in a huge fire." The idea pleased Nimrod, and he ordered it to be done. For 1 whole month, people collected wood to build a massive fire. They were proud of what they were doing and shouted, "This man is against our gods!" They built a mountain of wood, and when it was set on fire, its flames rose high into the sky. The fire was so hot that even birds could not fly near it. When the fire was ready, the people gathered to watch. Ibrahim A.S. was brought forward in chains, his hands and feet tied. Yet he was calm and peaceful. He had full trust in Allah. He felt no fear or worry because he was the close friend of Allah, Al-Khalil. As the fire burned fiercely, the angels prayed to Allah for him. Meanwhile, Nimrod and his advisors watched, thinking they were about to destroy the Prophet of Allah. ChatGPT said, "They discussed how to throw Ibrahim, A.S., into the fire. In the end, they decided to use a large catapult. Nimrod thought that by burning Ibrahim alive, he would prove himself as a god. This was the first time anyone had truly challenged him, and he had no answer for Ibrahim R.S. words. He felt humiliated, so in his arrogance, he believed he had the right, as a god, to throw Ibrahim into the fire he had created. At that moment, the angels of the heavens and the earth were shocked. They said, 'O our Lord Ibrahim, the one who remembers you the most, is being thrown into fire. He is a prophet who never forgets you. Please let us help him.' Allah gave permission for them to speak to Ibrahim. One angel came and said, 'The winds are under my control. If you wish, I can blow the fire away.' Another angel said, 'The waters are under my control. If you want, I will pour water and put the fire out.' A third said, 'The earth is under my control. I can swallow the fire into the ground if you wish.' But Ibrahim, A.S., replied to all of them, 'Do not come between the friend and the one he loves. Whatever my Lord wills, I accept it. If he saves me, it is his kindness. If he lets me burn, it is because of my shortcomings. I will be patient, insha'Allah.' As he was placed into the catapult and about to be thrown into the fire, Ibrahim, A.S., said, 'Allah is enough for us. He is the best one to rely on.' According to the narration of Abdullah ibn Abbas, R.A., Ibrahim, A.S., said these words while being thrown into the fire. Our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also said the same words when people warned him, 'The enemies are gathering against you.' In response, the believers said together, 'Allah is enough for us. He is the best one to rely on.' Their faith grew stronger, and they showed perfect trust in Allah. Just as Ibrahim, A.S., was about to be thrown into the fire, the angel Jibril, A.S., came and asked, 'Do you have any wish?' Ibrahim replied, 'Yes, I have a request, but not from you.' Jibril was surprised and asked, 'Why don't you ask Allah to save you?' Ibrahim said, 'He already knows my situation. Who gave the fire permission to burn? Burning only happens by his command. The fire is not burning just because it is fire. It was burning only because Allah had commanded it to burn.' Prophet Ibrahim, A.S., understood this truth. that the fire had no power of its own. If it burned him, it would be only by Allah's will, and if it did not, that too would be by Allah's command. Ibrahim was completely content with whatever Allah willed. For the sake of Allah, he was even ready to walk into fire or into hell if needed. This noble prophet had no fear. As he was falling toward the flames and could feel the heat surrounding him, Allah gave a command that changed everything. "O fire, be cool and peaceful for Ibrahim." Surah Al-Anbiya 21:69. By Allah's order, the fire remained burning, but it did not harm Ibrahim, a.s. It only burned the ropes that had tied him. Inside the fire, Ibrahim stood calm, praising and glorifying Allah. His heart was full of peace and love. For those who truly love Allah, even fire cannot bring fear. The people, leaders, and priests stood at a distance watching. The fire was so hot that it nearly burned their faces and made them choke. But soon they saw something unbelievable. Someone walking out of the flames. It was Ibrahim a.s., completely safe. His face was shining with the light of Allah's mercy. He walked calmly out of the fire while everyone watched in shock. Allah says in the Quran, "They wanted to harm him, but we made them the greatest losers." Surah Al-Anbiya 21:70. This great miracle humiliated the idol worshippers, yet their hearts were still full of anger and jealousy. Nimrod, filled with pride, said to his people, "If there is a God in the sky, then I will reach him and defeat him too." When Ibrahim grew older, he became deeply troubled by the statues his father made. Azar believed they were gods, but Ibrahim never accepted this idea. One night, Ibrahim couldn't sleep, so he went out and walked toward a mountain where he often went to think. Like his great-grandson, Prophet Muhammad, SAW, he would stay alone in a cave at night to reflect. That night, the sky was clear and full of stars. Ibrahim looked at the planets and stars that people worshipped and felt sadness in his heart. He wondered what was beyond the moon, stars, and planets. Later, he returned home, and when morning came, he was ready to speak to his father about what he believed. In the Quran, Allah tells us about this moment. When Ibrahim said to his father Azar, "Do you take idols as gods? Truly, I see you and your people in clear error." Surah Al-An'am 674. After that, Ibrahim a.s. began to speak openly with his people about their false beliefs. They worshipped the moon, Venus, the sun, and 7 other planets. To help them understand, Ibrahim used simple and logical reasoning. The Quran tells us, "When night covered everything, he saw a star and said, 'This is my Lord.' But when it disappeared, he said, 'I do not love things that go away.' Then when he saw the moon rising, he said, 'This is my Lord.' But when it also faded, he said, 'If my Lord does not guide me, I will be among the misguided.' Then he saw the sun shining and said, 'This must be my Lord, it is the biggest.' But when it also set, he said, 'O my people, I reject all the things you join as partners with Allah.' Surah Al-An'am 6:75-79. Through this wise debate, Ibrahim showed his people that the stars, moon, and sun cannot be gods because they disappear and change. A true God never disappears and never gives up his place. Ibrahim wanted his people to understand that only Allah deserves worship, the one who created everything and never fades away. Prophet Ibrahim, a.s., who lived about 4,000 years ago, was not from a simple or uneducated tribe. During his time, civilizations in Mesopotamia, between 1500 and 2500 BCE, were advanced in knowledge and technology. The Sumerians had already developed writing and greatly influenced all the societies in that region. These people lived in the land known as Babylon, which was home to the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Assyrians. The Babylonians, along with the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Assyrians, all lived in the Mesopotamian region. King Nimrod wanted everyone in this land to bow down to him. He treated people cruelly and committed terrible acts against them. During this time, Allah sent Prophet Ibrahim, AS, to guide Nimrod and his people, to remind them of Allah's commands, and to warn them against their wrong actions. Prophet Ibrahim, AS, used logic and clear reasoning to reach the hearts of these people. He wanted them to think and question their false beliefs. But telling the truth often brings hardship, and what many prophets faced later in history, Prophet Ibrahim faced first. Because of his honest words, people began to hate him. They closed their doors on him and called him a traitor. This young man, who only asked why they worshipped lifeless idols that could not see, hear, or speak, was met with anger, even from his own father. His father threatened to kill him, yet Ibrahim remained calm and respectful. He told his father that he would pray for his forgiveness and stay away from idol worship because he didn't want his father to suffer in the fire of hell. Guided by his faith in Allah, Ibrahim finally left his father's house. Even after being alone, Prophet Ibrahim, AS, did not stop calling his people toward truth. He tried to show them the beauty, power, and wisdom of Allah and to make them believe in the oneness of the Creator. But they refused to listen. Still, he didn't give up. He made a wise plan to show them the truth. Once every year, the Chaldean tribe held a big festival outside the city. Everyone would leave to celebrate together. Ibrahim waited for that day so he could go to the temple while it was empty. Inside the temple were idols made of gold, silver, copper, and wood. The people had placed food before them, hoping the idols would eat. When the streets were silent, Ibrahim entered the temple holding a sharp axe. He looked at the idols and said, "Do you not eat the food placed before you? Why do you not speak?" Surah As-Safat 37:92-93. Without fear, he raised his axe and began breaking all the false gods his people worshipped. One by one, he smashed them into pieces, except for the biggest one. Then he hung the axe around the neck of that large idol and left. When the people returned from the festival, they were shocked. Their idols were destroyed, lying in pieces across the temple floor. They were filled with anger and confusion. Who could have done such a thing? Finally, they suspected Ibrahim, the one who always told them to worship Allah alone. They went to him and asked, "Did you do this, Ibrahim?" Ibrahim, AS, calmly replied, "The big idol must have done it. Perhaps he was angry that you were worshipping the others, so he destroyed them with the axe." Ibrahim, AS, looked at the people and said, "You can ask the big idol yourself. Maybe he will tell you what happened." The idol worshippers replied, "But these idols cannot speak." Then Ibrahim said, "If they cannot even speak or protect themselves, how can they protect you? Will you still not understand?" Surah Al-Anbiya 21:59-67. With these wise words, Prophet Ibrahim defeated them through logic and truth. Even their leaders and religious scholars had no answer, but their pride and arrogance stopped them from admitting they were wrong. Instead of believing, they decided to punish him. They arrested Ibrahim, tied him in chains, and waited for King Nimrod to return. This is the unbelievable story of King Nimrod, a dark ruler who once said, "I will kill your God because I am the true God of all creation." He was a cursed king who challenged Allah himself. He even built a tall tower to shoot arrows into the sky. When the arrows came back covered in blood, he shouted with pride, "I have destroyed your God!" But why did the arrows return with blood? Why did Allah let him believe such a lie? This same cruel king created a fire so huge that its flames touched the clouds. He threw Prophet Ibrahim, AS, into it using a giant catapult. He was one of the most brutal kings the world had ever seen, and he ruled for 400 years. Yet this powerful man met a strange and humiliating end. A tiny fly entered his ear and slowly destroyed him from the inside. That was how Allah punished the arrogant king. Nimrod is remembered as one of the kings of hell, a man destroyed not by an army but by a single insect. You're watching Zama Islamic. Don't forget to subscribe and stay with us for more amazing Islamic stories. If you're ready, let's begin. Thousands of years ago, there lived a mighty king named Nimrod. He ruled a large part of the world and led the Chaldean tribe. At first, Nimrod was known as a fair and wise ruler. His people worshipped stars and idols. But as his power grew, Nimrod's heart filled with pride and arrogance. He built a vast empire stretching across many lands. Then he made statues of himself and commanded his people to worship him as a god. Although the name Nimrod is not directly written in the Quran, many Islamic scholars believe he is the man mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, the one who argued with Prophet Ibrahim, A.S., after Allah had given him power and kingdom. They say his real name was Naramsin, and he became the most cruel and bloodthirsty ruler of Babylon and the surrounding lands. Nimrod is known as the first man in history to say, "I am God." He built the great city of Babylon, and from there he began to spread corruption and fear. It is said that Nimrod was from the family of Ham, the son of Prophet Noah, A.S. He was Ham's grandson and the son of Cush. Many believe that the family of Ham produced some of the most aggressive and proud rulers in early history. They built great kingdoms in places like Egypt, Libya, Arabia, and India. Nimrod, from the same family, built not only Babylon, but also Nineveh and Kala. He was powerful, but his pride blinded him. He led armies and conquered lands, but in the end, a small fly brought him to his knees. King Nimrod defeated many kingdoms around him. He was the same ruler who ordered Prophet Ibrahim, A.S., to be thrown into the fire and told his people to rebel against Allah. In the Old Testament, Nimrod is described as a clever astrologer, idol worshiper, city builder, and a cruel man who even killed innocent babies. People said he had power over wild animals, and in his society, he was treated like a god. His wife Semiramis was also seen as a divine being and was worshipped by the people. After claiming to be a god, Nimrod built a large temple filled with idols. His rule lasted for almost 400 years. In the Quran, many verses, around 91, talk about the struggle between Ibrahim, A.S., and Nimrod. There are also other verses describing the fire and punishment that relate to him indirectly. In Nimrod's society, idols were treated as living beings. People believed their idols could eat, drink, speak, and even control life and death. They prayed to them for food, health, and forgiveness. They thought these idols ruled the world. There was no belief in life after death. Along with idols, they also worshipped stars and planets, believing the sun was the greatest power of all. People protected their idols and fought anyone who didn't believe in them. The temples were not only places of worship, but also used like courts, where public decisions were made. Anyone who rejected their religion or traditions was punished, sometimes by stoning, exile, or being thrown into fire. They saw other beliefs as dangerous and unwanted. One day, King Nimrod had a strange and frightening dream while he was awake. In his dream, a bright light came down from the sky, shining even brighter than the sun and moon. He woke up shaking and afraid. He called his fortune-tellers to explain the dream. They told him that soon a baby boy would be born in his land who would change people's religion and end Nimrod's rule. The cruel king immediately gave an order. Every newborn baby boy must be killed. Within days, many innocent children were murdered. Around that time, the mother of Ibrahim, A.S., was about to give birth. But because of the order, if she gave birth to a boy, he would be killed. She thought of a plan and said to her husband Azar, "Go to the temple and pray for me. If the baby is a boy, I will bring him to you, and you can present him to Nimrod to gain his trust." But this was only a trick to save her child. When Azar left, she gave birth to Ibrahim, A.S., and secretly placed him inside a cave. When her husband returned, she told him the baby was stillborn. Whenever Azar was away, she visited the cave and saw her baby alive, sucking his fingers. Angel Jibrail was making milk and honey flow from his fingers to feed him. Ibrahim, A.S., spent his early childhood hidden in that cave. When he grew older, he came out and began spreading the message of the oneness of Allah, calling people back to true faith. ChatGPT said, as time passed, Nimrod's dream was forgotten, and Ibrahim, A.S., left the cave. Eventually, his father Azar found out that his son was still alive. Islamic sources describe Prophet Ibrahim, A.S., as a man of medium height, with hazel eyes, a kind and beautiful face, and a bright forehead. It is said that he resembled Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, more than anyone else. Even the shape of his footprints was similar. He ordered his men to build a giant tower that would reach the heavens. Some say the construction continued for many days or even weeks. When the tower was finally built, Nimrod climbed to the top, carrying his bow and arrows. He aimed toward the sky and began shooting his arrows upward. It is said that Allah allowed the arrows to return covered in blood, not because they had hurt anyone, but to expose Nimrod's foolishness. His soldiers saw the arrows and shouted, "Look, he has wounded the God in the sky." But this was only arrogance and ignorance. Allah had shown them a sign to humble them, yet Nimrod still refused to learn. His pride grew even stronger. He then called for Ibrahim, A.S., again and said, "Call your Allah, I will fight him with my whole army." Then he sent Ibrahim away. After some time, Nimrod saw Ibrahim returning from a distance, but to his surprise, Ibrahim was alone. There was no army behind him. Nimrod laughed loudly and said mockingly. Nimrod looked at Ibrahim, A.S., and laughed. "Now I am embarrassed," he said. "I gathered a great army, and you brought no one. Did I prepare this whole army just for you? Where is your Allah? Where is his army?" Ibrahim, A.S., remained calm and replied softly, "Wait. It will arrive soon." Not long after, Allah sent his army, not of men or giants, but of tiny mosquitoes. A massive swarm filled the sky, darkening it completely. The air was thick, and people could not even open their eyes. These mosquitoes were unlike any others. They attacked Nimrod as soldiers and ate their flesh until only bones remained. Panic spread through the army. Soldiers screamed and ran in every direction. Seeing this chaos, Nimrod became terrified. He ran back to his palace without looking behind him and locked all the doors, thinking he was safe. But one small, weak mosquito slipped through a tiny crack in the door, and this little creature would become the cause of his death. It flew straight into Nimrod's nose and reached his brain. Once inside, it began to move and buzz, causing unbearable pain in his head. Nimrod screamed and started banging his head against the wall, trying to stop the pain. When that didn't work, he ordered his servants to hit his head with hammers. He promised gold and silver to whoever hit harder. Day after day, his men struck the same head that had once worn a golden crown for 400 years. Each time he screamed, "I can still hear it! The mosquito is still inside!" and begged them to hit him again. Allah increased his suffering day by day until one soldier finally struck his head so hard that it cracked, and Nimrod died in agony. The Quran reminds us, "They tried to harm Ibrahim, but we made them the greatest losers." Surah Al-Anbiya 21-70. Nimrod, who had once been proud and arrogant with his worldly power, and his people, who followed him blindly, were all destroyed, not by fire or war, but by tiny mosquitoes. Their blood was drained, their bodies turned to dust, and their power meant nothing. This story is a clear lesson for all of humanity. Nimrod, the man who challenged Allah and threw his prophet into the fire, left behind a story full of warnings. His miserable death, caused by a tiny insect, will always remind us that no one is greater than Allah. It is said that Imam Shafi was once asked, "Why did Allah create mosquitoes?" He replied, "To remind people that even someone like Nimrod, proud and full of himself, was defeated by a small creature. That is the wisdom behind it. May Allah protect us from pride and arrogance. If this story touched your heart, don't let it get lost on YouTube. Please like, comment, and subscribe so it can reach more hearts. May Allah reward you for your support. You are watching Zama Islamic. See you in the next story, inshallah. May Allah protect you.